gentlemen, welcome into the Studs Podcast. You have Mike over here on the couch and doing amazing. We have our three guests, especially our special guest, Mr. Eric. Eric, how you doing, man?
And this is Rick.
Eric Herb.
Good. How are you, Mike?
I'm just peachy. Thank you for asking.
Your heart's been aching, but you're too shy to see.
We got Keith over in the office. Keith?
Keith in the office, holding up good. Mike, how are you doing?
Doing well. And we got Lou in the piano station. Lou, how you doing, man?
The station, yes. I'm
He's
freezing my balls.
He's in the booth right now, in the recording booth.
Mm-hmm.
Freezing my balsanias off right now.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And Eric, we have no clue where Eric is.
At an undisclosed location.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Witness
sure.
protection.
I'm
The
sure.
European VPN.
Yeah, sure about that. Let's start it off. We're going to go right into it. Episodes 5 and 6 of The Last Dance last week. Keith, what's your thoughts?
Well, number one, my big takeaway for the first episode when they were talking about the Dream Team was just how, Jordan came out and he pretty much, he asserted himself as like the alpha of all the superstars. So it's pretty cool to see that. One thing that I really like seeing is that during like practice, for example, like Magic Johnson, I think they were up on like Jordan's team by like 9 points or whatever. And he goes over to Jordan afterwards. He like taps him on the shoulders, like, "Hey, what are you doing right now? You gotta tap into Air Jordan right now. You gotta become Air Jordan if you want to beat us." And like get this like motivated Jordan, and he went on a huge scoring run, and like he was up on like Magic Johnson's team by like 5 points at the end of all of it. It was just crazy. And and I remember them saying like Magic Johnson's just like, "Oh man, we shouldn't really have pissed him off." So he just has that ability, to like flip that switch and go Air Jordan like Magic Johnson had said. So that was pretty cool to see. Just being him. I mean, those are the best players in the league, obviously. You know what I mean? So he can rise above that at like a moment's notice. So it just proved that it was cool to see that he's the alpha among the alphas. And as regards to the second episode, they touched upon, like you said, Mike, a couple episodes ago that we did on Jordan's darker side about that gambling situation that he went through. I remember that they actually did like an interview. I forget who it was who interviewed him, but like Michael Jordan did the interview with literally like pitch black like glasses on. He's like, "Man, do you want to?" And the guy interviewing him was like, "Dude, you want to take those off? You look like terrible right now." And he's just like, "No, I just want to get it done and over with. And I want to address it right now." Because after those two losses to the Knicks, I believe it was, in like the Eastern Conference Finals, he went to like Atlantic City, I think, and this was gambling. So there's this whole conspiracy about him, and then as you guys know, and as everyone else knows, is that had a huge effect on the media. And like Jordan, like any superstar, lives in the media, but especially him because he has this mass appeal to him because he's a superstar. And he pretty much, he was in the presence of the media all the time, and they actually showed that too. And I got to him to the point where like they showed him in his bedroom or whatever, like this like living room area. He was just like laid out on the couch, and he was just like, "This is the only place I can go to get away from you guys. I can't go out. I can't do anything, So the media was a big part in his life. And then they talked about later on how the media it fueled him to come back because they were down, like I said earlier, 2-0 against the Knicks, and they came back. They used that media. They came together as a team. That like media threat, attacking Jordan. And I forget who it was that said it. It's like, you attack, one of us. That just makes us come together and be stronger. And the last thing I'll say about that episode that I enjoyed was the NBA Finals against Phoenix. It was the Bulls in Phoenix, and Charles Barkley was in that. He was the MVP of that year. And I remember a quote from Charles Barkley saying, like, I guess like Jordan was like balling out that game, and Charles Barkley was saying, he's like, "Oh man, I really gave it all that I had," and that was the first time I thought in my head there was somebody better than me, in the league. So that just goes, above and beyond to show, how, like I said earlier, Jordan is a star among stars. So, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I still don't like how they skip back and forth between, like current time and like 1992, 1993. Like you said, I think Mike, you said in like the first episode, I hope they, as we get towards, the later episodes, that they stick kind of towards relevant times, closer to the 98 series. But I mean, it is interesting to see, those big things. And how Jordan, what his role was in those like games and the All-Star game earlier, and the Olympics as well too. What his stance was and everything. So I liked it a lot.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Let's go to Eric. His logo keeps going white. He's making a lot of noise over there. I hope everything's all right. Eric, are you here?
And, yeah.
Take the spotlight, man.
So, really, my takeaways from this week's past episodes, the Dream Team was definitely a big part of the first episode, I thought, especially like what Keith said with Magic Johnson. He pissed off Michael Jordan in that practice and really made him take it to the next level and show everyone that this man is for real. He is a star among the stars. And really another big thing from the Dream Team was like, Michael, he's forced into seclusion by, just his sheer popularity, just being stuck in that hotel room the entire time to himself. And then him and Pippen also really, I thought another huge part was they really took it to Tony Kukoc during the games. They really showed that guy, like, you're not coming to Chicago and thinking you're going to be the guy. We are the alpha males on this team, and you're just for the support. So I thought that was interesting. They wouldn't let anyone else guard him during those games. It was either Jordan or Pippen, which I thought was awesome. And then the other interesting thing I think from that whole Dream Team was like when the Dream Team won the gold medal, I think they had to show, or they had to wear those warm-ups with
the
like
flags,
the
Reebok
Reebok symbol. And Jordan, for some reason, I forget why, but he didn't want to show it off.
Yeah, he didn't like the Reebok, whatever his good name was, I forgot. He didn't like him for whatever reason.
But so he ended up covering up his warm-up with the American flag. And then, another big thing was the 1998 All-Star game, and Jordan, really his last time with the Bulls as an All-Star, just showing out in Madison Square Garden, and taking it to Kobe Bryant, who was a budding star at the time, and really just teaching him a lesson on the court, And then also Jordan, I thought this was very interesting. I didn't know this, but he originally wanted to sign with Adidas for a shoe deal. Mm-hmm. And I guess his parents forced him to listen to Nike's offer, and I think his dad pretty much told him, like, this is a great deal. I don't know why you wouldn't take this. I would take this right now. And so I think that was very interesting that he never originally wanted to be with Nike. And that really kind of, that whole shoe deal that he signed, the shoes that resulted really changed the culture of the league. And, people who wear shoes for, casualty, they start wearing these, like, Jordans all the time. It's just a huge, like, fashion statement now. And the final things that I thought were important were definitely when Jordan, in the 1992 finals, when he went up against Clyde Drexler. I remember he was saying he was talking to Magic Johnson the night before, like, game one. He said, I'm going to give it to this guy. Just you wait. And I remember people saying, that they were trying to compare Jordan to Drexler, and Jordan was completely offended by that. And so I think that, he said that that's what really fueled him to take it to him, and he hit 6 threes because of it, and that's what led to the famous shrug game. And then, like you said, with the 1993 finals, Jordan, I think I remember him saying he was upset that Barkley got the MVP that year, but he said, you know what, Barkley, you can have the MVP. I'm getting the title. And then he ended up that's what he did. So those are my takeaways from the episodes.
There's a lot of good points in there. I'll get into mine in a couple. I kind of agreed with you. I have some more topics to discuss off that. Before we go to Louie, Keith, I'm curious. What kind of printer is that in the back?
Which one? I got HP? 3 of them.
2? Microsoft HP?
This is I got an S-Pen right here.
S-
Another
oh,
S-Pen. I
S-Pen.
got another S-Pen, and then this
Shout
right
out
here,
S-Pen.
this bad boy right here is a brother. Right here. And then
A
back
brother.
over here, we got the good old-fashioned fax machine.
Those
Go
brother
on with the
printers
fax
up
machine.
first.
Hey, you know, I gets the job
Oh.
done for what I need to do.
Uh,
I'm not printing out too much.
nah.
Hey, but it is
Nah.
what it is.
All right, Louie, what's your thoughts, man? Shout out to Epson,
And brother printers, we don't hate you.
brother.
And Well, all right. But here's the thing. So watching these two episodes, it was pretty cool to see the Kobe tribute. That was the number one thing for me, probably, just because of a recent memories and things that have happened. But
And that was a somber thing to watch him come on and talk like that. You know, it was really weird. It was weird, and it was like, you know, it took it with a grain of salt. You know, it's just like, oh man, you know, he spoke words of wisdom, but then you know, you remember that he's gone. He's not with us anymore. But
yeah, exactly. It's tough. It was tough to accept at that fact. I'm like, we're talking about somebody in antiquity, and it's just been like he was just in the league so soon before that happened. So that was tough. But it was cool to see that 1998 All-Star game and have, like Eric said, Jordan kind of kick his butt and kind of give it to him in a sense. Because I remember there was a clip in the locker room where Jordan was like, "This MFer is gonna take like 40 shots," and he's talking about Kobe. So Kobe kind of had that Jordan mentality already instilled, and that's why I kind of understood why a lot of people compared Kobe to Jordan, because he kind of modeled his game after him and things of that nature. Not also his game, but his mentality as well. It was also cool to see the Olympics too. I like that. It was kind of there was a quote from MJ and Scotty. We know that Jerry Krause liked Tony Kukoc, so we wanted to give it to him. And they did. The first game they came out and they beat the living crap out of him. I think the next couple of games, or the next game that they faced off Croatia and the U.S., I think he played a better overall game. And MJ was impressed with him. He was like, all right, this kid has some guts, you know?
yeah.
And then I think for the second episode, tail end of the last episode of the first episode of that series, it was cool to see how Nike kind of transcended to an actual brand when it was actually nothing to begin with in the beginning. I think the shoe was Converse.
Yeah, it was Converse.
Yeah,
that
Converse
was
was
the
the
shoe of the
official shoe.
NBA.
Yeah, the Larry Birds and the Magic Johnsons of the world rocking those bad boys. You can have a picture. You can never see me with a pair of those on today. I don't know
Me
about you
neither.
guys.
No, me neither.
Damn
That's
cool.
that's a lifetime membership to arthritis. Imagine those guys'
The
feet
Chuck,
right
the
now.
Chuck
Like,
Taylors. Even
everything.
before that, they
Oh.
had the Chuck Taylors. You know the Chuck
Yeah.
Taylors? People wear those for like skating and stuff like that, like the skater dudes, whatever. But
Like how many of those issues that like Bird had with his back and like other like players had like could have been avoided with a better shoe.
didn't have the technology at the time, so you
Right.
can't. You're saying like different errors that you
Yep.
can't. That's why I say you can't really compare errors with other players. But not to get off topic, but it's true. Like you could say technology in all aspects, whether it's like weight training, shoes, medical staff, whatever, gameplay. Rick, that's your quote.
Whatever you guys want, we'll play it. I don't care. We'll play horror games. I don't like those, but we'll do it.
Gameplay. Seriously. And then but to get on to the point of Nike, dude, Nike would have been nothing without Jordan. And Jordan said it himself. He's like, I made the shoe. I made that brand. If I went to Adidas, he would have done the same thing. Because he is Michael Jordan. Like, the question you got to ask yourself now is, would Nike be that same hot brand it is now today if Michael didn't sign? It's a good question to ask. Would we be rocking Adidas's right now? I know Kanye's kind of taken over the Adidas world of things with his ugly-looking shoes that cost like the freaking price of a mid-sized sedan, but that's besides the point.
Alonzo Ball loafers.
I'd rather buy a big Baller Brand shoe for
Yeah,
$4.
Alonzo Ball
Yeah.
loafers, baby.
He won't even wear his own shoes.
Yeah, he will. I think what are they? I think there was like not to get too off topic, but like about the Lonzo Ball shoes. I think that whatever shoe brand it was with, I think he was wearing his shoes and they were like so cheaply made or crappily made that like by halftime or whatever, or by like the mid game, they're like falling apart. They literally had to have like a second pair of shoes on hand that he can change into like halfway through the game because they were so like poor quality that they couldn't even like last in like an NBA game, and that's just like nuts.
Absolutely insane. And then like the second episode, kind of what I'll kind of recap is the 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 matchups he took were very personal against the best players. So Clyde, Charles, like Eric said, when he heard Clyde being compared to him, he's like, this guy's a bum being compared to me. No way. Goes in and absolutely kills him. I mean, he took every matchup personal. Now, to highlight one thing that we've kind of talked about was the gambling issue, which I kind of had a hard time interpreting. Maybe you guys would jump in on this, but it seems like he was gambling not also just in the casinos, but he was gambling in golf tournaments and in games like that.
He was gambling.
Gambling on the bus and on the
Yeah.
planes too.
Right. Yeah.
Feel free to jump in. Did he was it when he paid off like a $57,000 debt to some golfer, right? I don't know
Right.
what his name was, but
Yeah, he was a gambler. The guy was like a heavy gambler. They wrote a book about it.
Yeah, that's right. Like my gambling addiction, they said that. And he's just like,
Michael and me.
and Michael was pissed because he was just like, I don't have an addiction. It's just like I like. He's betting. I think he said it. This is a quote, not an exact quote, but the best that I remember. He's like, I don't have an addiction. It's just I'm gambling on my competitiveness. He's like, I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competitiveness problem. That's what he said.
right, I remember that quote. That was a good quote. And then also to kind of switch topics here, I wanted to highlight the fact that when we saw like the first 4 episodes, the media wasn't really too harsh on MJ. MJ didn't seem too like flustered by the media. You can see now, like by 93, 92, 93, now you see MJ feeling the pressure of the media and feeling the star power and what comes with it, and kind of seeing him just like kind of escape into his own world. So that was cool to see, and I kind of felt for the guy too, in a sense, when he was sitting, drinking his wine, smoking his cigars, like, this is the only place I can relax. You guys are following me everywhere.
Right.
But that's all I got.
Yeah, to your check. So it was paid. It was a $57,000 cashier's check that he gave. So the guy was a suspected drug dealer, and if I remember correctly, he had to go to court and testify. So he was going up into a lot of. I understand his point. Like it's not an addiction for him. Like $10,000 to him might be $10 to someone.
Right.
Like it's such a different world. That's what I wanted, though. I wanted this episode to show some of the. Again, he's still a great. Like to me, like there's no one that competes like. I'm never gonna question that, but he started getting into some other stuff, gambling, and there was a conspiracy that I heard this week. That they talked. I heard it on the radio that when he quit in '93 to go play baseball, and David Stern came out and said, that's the look into his gambling issues is over. We're ending that case. Conspiracy among a lot of the NBA players was that 2 years that he was out was a suspension for him, because there was some deeper stuff that he was doing, whether it was gambling on games, whatever it was. There was some deeper stuff. They didn't want it to come out on him, and they said, go play baseball. Go do whatever else. Go do something else for 2 years. Get out of here. That was a conspiracy there. I could definitely see that, because Stern comes out a month after he retires, said, yeah, the case is closed. I could definitely see that being true. That was something that came out. The Kobe thing, it was very eerie just to see him there.
Yeah.
Like, to me, too soon. Like, still too soon. It's still like hurts you when you watch something about him.
Doesn't feel real.
No.
Yeah, I know it's nuts. Crazy.
But I was kind of disappointed. I felt that though it was very quick, and not that Kobe's the whole. That's not what the documentary's about. But they hyped it up like, oh, we're gonna see Kobe and his relationship with Kobe. What was the segment, like 8 minutes, 6 minutes?
Barely.
Yeah. Like it wasn't even long. Like, that was kind of disappointing. Again, it was very eerie to see Kobe. So like not having all that in there, I guess for me personally at that time, I'm okay with. But at the same point, for a lot of people looking forward to that, I felt like that was very, very. It wasn't long. It really didn't dive into anything for me. Not at all. So I was a little bummed out about that. Obviously, the gambling issues arrive. You start to see this other side. Jerry Krause, man, he's just like, it's shocking. It's funny. He's like, there's one part of the episode for like 2 minutes that will just randomly jump to Jerry Krause saying something idiotic, and then they move on to the remainder of the documentary.
Yeah.
And it's so big. Like in this, he said the team is great, but the organization's what it's all about. Like, come on, man. Like, he's not here to protect himself. I know he passed away, but like, there's always, and then they jump off. They go back into the documentary, but they always make sure to include that
Like
little
that jab in, yeah.
that little 30-second piece from Jerry Krause. He's always inserting himself in, especially with Tony Kukoc. He put that out there that he was a guy, he liked him. Of course, it motivated Pippen, and that goes to show. I mean, Krause had real estate in their minds. What he did worked. I mean, it really did. What he did, he had real estate in Jordan's mind. He had real estate in Pippen's mind. I'm sure probably the whole team's mind. He had real estate in all of them. And did it drive them to be better? You could say so. Not that their drive wasn't already there, but Krause definitely had real estate in a lot of those players, including Jordan, including Pippen. So that was one of that. I'm not a political guy. It goes into some of the activism. How
politics.
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
He didn't go for it. Do I think there's anything wrong with that? No. I'm a big believer. I don't talk religion. I don't talk politics. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Whether people want to hate on him for that, I think that's kind of unjust. That's a topic. Those are two topics where if you don't want to get involved, you shouldn't be penalized. Even if he's the first African American, I think it was senator. You're the biggest guy from North Carolina, Jordan. Like, I don't think that should be painted on a poor light on the guy. Again, that's a sensitive topic.
I do think, though, that relating to that topic, that Jordan, the way he handled it, I mean, I think that, the way that he said it, he's like, Republicans buy shoes too, or whatever, or like, I don't know. I think that, I think that, going about that, I think that he could have maybe used a better choice of words or whatever to distance himself from that or whatever. He could have said something like you said, like, oh, I don't get into politics, that's not me. I just focus on basketball. Yeah. But just the way he said it, I feel like that's probably what got him the backlash. You know what I mean? If he said it in a more professional way, I feel like he wouldn't got as much he wouldn't have gotten as scrutinized for it. But just the way that he distanced himself from it. Republicans buy shoes too. That's what got him so much heat from it.
Yeah, it definitely could have been worded differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. That was, again, I don't think he deserves a lot of hate for that. Again, this is stuff I never knew about this.
I didn't know about that either. It was interesting, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan's a smart guy, though, for the fact that he's like, I'm not going to speak on something I have no knowledge about. You hear some of these athletes, they'll just pull something out of their behind and talk, and they lose credibility. They absolutely lose credibility.
Yeah.
Like sometimes LeBron will say things. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about, dude? You're speaking in tongues. Like, you're not making any sense.
Some things he's on topic on, and then some things is just. I think LeBron's a very smart guy, but some of the stuff he says, I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to comment. I can't think of any specific, but I just know over history, there's been a lot of things that he said that is very smart, and then some things that he just should keep his head out of.
Right, yeah, he should keep his head out of some of those races. I absolutely agree, yeah. I just feel like, though, that, in a position that you're in, like a superstar, like a role of a Jordan or a Tom Brady or, even a LeBron James, whoever, someone at that high elite level, I almost feel like they're kind of almost pressured into coming out and to saying something like that, because they have such they have that level of influence over a lot of people that they're kind of almost forced into like I said, into saying something or speaking up about a certain event that just happened.
Say what you want. I think sports is one of the most influential things to people in this country, even people who aren't into sports. Look at the coronavirus. What stopped everything? It was Rudy Gobert touching those mics and getting the coronavirus, and the NBA canceled the season for people to be like, wow, this COVID stuff's real.
Right.
Sports is going to be the thing that's going to bring people back to normal life. Sports is one of the most influential things in the world. Obviously, I might be missing some things, but I'm talking just purely sports. It's one of the most influential. The people who are fans or people who aren't fans. And like you saw with COVID, the NBA canceling its season made everyone look and say, this is legit. We need to stop things right now. So these people who are influenced, I mean, again, he was put in a position. And I think he handled it well. Again, did he say the right thing with the Republican? No, he could have avoided that. But there's a lot of pressure on these athletes, where a lot of people put pressure on them to say things and to do things, even though that's not their place.
Right.
But they're influential. LeBron James is still influential, and LeBron James is going to affect those 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, however old, that are listening to him. They say, "Well, if LeBron thinks that, I'm going to think that. If Tom Brady thinks this way, I'm going to think. If Jordan thinks this way." But you don't have that with Jordan, other than that one topic. Like, I never really heard of anything since. So sports is definitely, to me, one of the most influential things in this world. I have a biggest loser from this episode. It's funny. I wrote it down immediately. Charles Smith is the ultimate loser in this episode. He was the guy on the Knicks that got like 6 rebounds under the hoop.
Yeah.
Kept throwing up with it.
Oh yeah, and they kept blocking it
every
they
time.
stole it. Yeah.
When they showed that clip, I'm like, what are you doing? That was nuts. He's the ultimate loser in this episode. Ultimate loser in this episode.
He's got to kick out.
Like, kick it out, man. He kept getting stuffed. I don't know if it was 3-4 times in
It
a
was
row.
like it was probably 4 times, and then he got the ball stolen from him after that. On top of it.
Ultimate loser.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much they included this, but there was like a section of those episodes where they're talking about Horace Grant and how he was snitching on the team. I don't think we talked about that. How do you guys feel about that?
I think I need a refresher on that. I do remember that there was an incident like that, but I forget
what happened was the guy Sam Smith or whoever it was.
It was Sam Smith.
Sam Smith. I think they were close. Like, and Horace Grant said it, they had a close relationship. So Sam Smith wrote the book about the Jordan rules and all the tension inside the team. And like Eric said earlier, that how they fuel, or is that Keith? One of you said, how it fueled bringing them together. And they jumped to Horace Grant because he was close with Sam Smith. Horace Grant said he said nothing. I believe him. I do believe him. Yeah, that was basically the gist of it. I don't know much about Horace Grant. People started turning on him or whatever. But then you look at it a few years later, and they had the scene where he came back with Orlando. And they're like,
they were dapping
hugging each other and stuff. So that right there kind of like in my head said, I don't think he was behind that. But that was the story. That was what happened with him. He was a good player.
Horace Grant, yeah.
Underrated, I think.
Player. Yeah, I think Jordan just has an ability, to I mean, like, everyone thinks about Jordan, but then there are those role players on that team, like your Dennis Rodmans or your Horace Grants or even your Steve Kerrs for that matter, or who just get like they're all great players in their own right, but Jordan just has that ability that you focus on him and those other guys just fly underneath the radar. And I think that what you guys are talking about, I mean, I think Horace Grant, that maybe, if I remember correctly, because like I still don't know exactly what happened. I still don't remember the whole entire thing, but I think that might have been like part of the things that they were saying that fueled, Horace Grant. He's like, I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm not getting recognized for it or whatever, But yeah, maybe that was just that was just like an in the moment kind of deal. You know what I mean? I'm not sure.
I'm sure a lot of people felt that way though on that team. That's probably where the division, where that little division went. I'm sure Paxson felt that way. I'm sure.
Right. Yep.
I'm sure Pippen felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like he definitely did. I think that was definitely a contention. I'm sure Phil Jackson had feelings inside of him like, well, I don't get enough credit for this.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Jordan, like Krause, but he didn't do it like Krause. We know Krause had those feelings.
Oh yeah, he made it known. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very evident. I had another loser in the episode too, and that's just Atlanta in general. Yeah. Not the city. I'm sure the city's I would love to go there, but like just the fan base. Like they showed inside the Georgia Dome for like one of Jordan's last games.
Yeah.
And it's empty. Most of it's empty. They can't even sell and that's from Michael Jordan. The Hawks games never sold out. They still don't sell out. I remember with the Larry Bird, they used to talk about how like there's more Celtics fans and there was probably more Bulls fans in that Atlanta Coliseum, whatever, the Georgia Dome, whatever it was at the time. I feel like that's such a terrible fan base. Anyways, I will shout out though. My boy Prince was on there. He did make the special.
Yeah, I saw that. Prince was in there. Yeah.
So he made Atlanta look a little bit better. It was with Spike Lee. Yeah, I mean that's really it. I have a question for you guys. That dream team. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, the Knicks. John Starks. Like I would have hated him watching him live. Like I felt like he was a little stinker. I didn't hate them as much as the Pistons, but there was like a little like I'm sitting there. I'm like, ooh. Like
yeah.
I would hate them. I was building hatred towards them, not as much as the Pistons, but I was building hatred towards them.
It was like the Bad Boys V2 version 2.0. You know.
Yeah. It's just I have real respect for Patrick Ewing. Like I like Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
I don't think Patrick Ewing was that dirty. Like I feel like he's physical.
Right.
Unlike Lambert. Like I don't think.
Yeah, Lambert.
Starks looked like he could have been dirty. But again, I haven't been able to watch a lot of Knicks. The last thing I'll ask is, I'm sorry. I have two more points. Before I continue, anyone have any thoughts? I have a lot.
One thing that I'll say is that I actually talked about this with Eric the other day, is that just like how regularly like Michael Jordan smokes cigars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I never would have pictured him smoking that many cigars, and it was almost like to the point where like I thought it was like, all right, maybe he just smoked some or whatever after he won a championship. You know, that's like a major milestone. But they were showing him like during like everyday things, like he was driving all smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, I was talking to my dad about that, and I guess I would have thought that personally first is that like you would have had some kind of like lung issues running up and down the court like smoking so much. But I guess I talked to my dad about it. He's like, when you smoke a cigar, you don't breathe in the smoke, you breathe it out. But there's still like health issues that you can get from like doing that, like smoking that many, smoking in general. It can mess you up pretty good. So I was surprised he was like just doing that, casually like every day.
Yeah.
That was one thing I took away.
I almost coughed out a lung the one time I tried a cigar with my father.
It
was awful.
The other funny thing I just want to bring up, I remember about the whole gambling thing, is they were talking about, I think, the team was on a plane one time. Jordan would always be in the back of the plane with like, Pippen and maybe like Ron Harper or somebody, and they were always like betting big money, playing like whatever card games. And then I remember they said Will Perdue and like John Paxson would always be the guys up at the front, and then they'd be betting, like dollar bills. And then Jordan came up to the front of the plane one time to sit with them, and he's like, "Hey, can I play with you guys?" And Will Perdue was like, "Why would you come and play with us? You're just betting $1,000. We're only playing for $1 hands." And he's like, "I want to play with you guys because I want to say I have your money in my pocket." So I thought that was hilarious.
That was funny.
He is so super like I've said it every episode. It's just his charm, his charisma,
very charismatic.
Everything about him makes him so likable. And even sitting there on the documentary and talking about things, it's funny too. Like I don't know, I can't remember if he had a cigar in his hands too during the documentary, but you could see the scotch on the side of him.
Yeah,
the whiskey, whatever that is, and like the
Guy's
glass.
always so bloodshot too.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I'm like, I'm not gonna jump to conclusions here.
This guy's roasted.
Yeah. He's so charismatic.
Yeah, he is. Very likable.
It's entertaining. Like I find myself laughing when they show some of the clips, like him playing and gambling with the security guards. Like,
I was laughing like that.
And he got mad over $20.
Yeah.
He was like fuming. Like
I remember that. He's like, "Security, get security out of here, please."
Yeah.
He's Yep, Eric, sorry.
Oh, I just remember, when they be playing whatever game it was, throwing the coin against the wall, he let those guys have like 4 chances to get as close as they could to the wall, and Jordan was only giving himself 1 chance, so he was really confident in himself, in every game he played.
Yep.
Whatever. So.
Yeah. That's right.
I have a lot on here. There was another point. This is I was listening to the radio, like sport in Boston, Sports Hub, and I just have some hatred, man, for the Celtics fans right now, like Celtics Nation, like Green Teamers. They were talking about and making a fuss about why they didn't go and show that first game. So in the first game of the last season, They played at the Celtics, and that was Rick Pitino's first game, and the Celtics won. Chauncey Billups had a great game. Antoine Walker had like 30 points, and like the sports, like the radio, like they're like, we hope they go into this. We're hoping to see them talk about this. It was a promising start to the Rick Pitino era. Why the heck does that have to be in this? They lost the first game at the Garden, probably by less than 10 points. I don't know what the exact score was. That was kind of a frustration with me, like green teamers. That's like saying, they should put Reggie Lewis in there and do a little 5-minute spot about how Reggie Lewis blocked Michael Jordan 4 times in one game, the only player to ever do that. Like, why do you have to include it? Like, who cares about that? Rick Pitino stunk. In the Celtics, at least. He's a great coach in other areas. But that was just a little gripe. I'm like, what the heck?
Well.
Yeah, well, it's very scandalous. Yeah, that was like a little gripe. I'm like, why do they have to get involved? Who the heck cares about that? The Celtics stunk.
This is a Jordan documentary. What is
exactly.
it?
Right, yeah.
Exactly. Jordan. It's the way he tells it. It's the way he sees it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming, I know yes for me, but like in all sports, anything like that dream team, I gotta say is the greatest team of all time, ever. Like in any sport, ever assembled.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Stealthy.
I can't think of it maybe some of the NBA teams too, and like when they won with Garnett or Kobe and LeBron and Dwayne, like
that was a pretty good one too.
But like not like come on, you had like stinking all those other guys on there. There was one thing too, like they had Christian Laettner on there.
Yeah.
They had some other guy. I forgot who the other player was that was dominant. Oh, Shaq. Shaq was dominant in college at the time, and instead of putting Shaq on there, they put Christian Laettner. I remember seeing that.
Yep.
That was stupid. Well, final thoughts. What do you guys want to see for next week?
Well, my last point is this. I kind of realized like how Jordan kind of was overshadowing a lot of great players in the NBA, aka Charles Barkley. I didn't realize he was that good, honestly, especially with Phoenix. Like he was an animal, and he was just in Jordan's shadow. And I think he came on and he said it on First Take, or I think it was Get Up or whatever. He's like, hey, I'm okay with losing to Michael because he's the freaking greatest player of all time. I'm okay with losing him in the finals. And that's a pretty like egoless thing to say about losing, like he took it up on the chin. And I'm pretty sure they were good friends because they both like gambling. They both dealt with gambling issues. So I would coincide with that as well.
Well, I'm gonna go against that because it came out that they're not that much good friends anymore because he was critical about Charlotte and how terrible they are.
No, I'm not saying at this point. I'm saying like back then.
Oh, back then, yeah, probably.
Yeah, no. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
It seemed like they were. It seemed like that. That's sad.
Yeah.
They went on Oprah together.
Yeah. That's not Barkley's fault. Like Jordan stinks as a GM or an owner, whatever he is. He
does. He's terrible.
Eric.
So what I want to see, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Bulls handle not having Michael Jordan during his absence during I think it was between 93 and 95. He was gone, so I think that'll be interesting to see just how the team deals with it, how it changes the way they run things, and I just think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, Eric. I think that's going to be definitely one of the things that isn't really highlighted too much. So that's something we need more information, and we're kind of waiting to grasp.
Keith?
And for me, I'm going to keep it simple. As always, I do really like the little stories that that you wouldn't necessarily hear. Like the John Paxsons, the Steve Kerrs, the Horace Grants. I like hearing those little like tidbits, of like what they had to say like about like a certain like event, because like obviously like I mentioned earlier, Jordan, those guys, because he drew so much attention, those guys flew underneath the radar. So I like hearing what they have to say about like certain events that that Jordan like sucked all the attention to. I want to hear like more things like that, because like there's a lot of things that that I've been just by watching that I didn't know about, and that I'm learning a lot more about, and I really do enjoy doing that. So I just want to keep hearing more and more of those like little stories from like not from the role players, not the role players. Excuse me. The like the side characters, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
like hearing stuff like that. So because a lot of those, those are like little gems that that I enjoy hearing.
Just a quick note. Did you guys notice how last week, to 2 weeks, episodes 3 and 4, they had Barack Obama as Chicago resident?
Yeah, Chicago resident.
And
And
then
then for
this
this
past
past
episode-
one, they gave him as president. Yeah, finally.
President. Like, what?
Oh man.
I have a question for you guys too. Before Mike speaks, I hope this doesn't go on a rampage here, but why do you think Isaiah was left off the dream team?
Honestly, it's because I think that he doesn't have good chemistry with everyone else. They even said it. He's like 4 out of the 5 starting players had beef with Isaiah Thomas because of what he did with the Pistons. So I mean, like, I think mainly he is a talented basketball player, but I think chemistry wise, if he was on the court during that dream team during the Olympics, that team wouldn't have been as functional as it was. You know what I mean? Like, they would have been holding the ball away from him. People wouldn't be passing the ball. He'd be getting pissed, and it would just be causing like a scene in practice, in the game, in the locker room. So I think that just to like save face and to avoid all that, they said, hey, you know what? You are a talented player, but you're not what we're looking for on this team. That's just my take. I don't know how you guys feel though.
He seems like like no one liked him. A lot of them had beef with him. I think they respected him as a player. I just think no one liked him. He would have been the guy. He probably would have tried to be Jordan on that team. I could have saw that. He probably would have wanted to take all the shots, everything. It just wasn't. It was smart they left him off. He was just hated. He wasn't a likable guy. He's still not a likable guy. No matter how great he is, there's respect there. He's just not a likable guy. He would have ruined everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think he definitely had a lot of people on that team had problems with him, and he would have just destroyed the chemistry of the team. And really, it probably would have been almost inoperable for them to play games. He probably just destroyed the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's my thoughts. My final thought is of what I want to see. There's 3 things. The first one is, like Eric said, I want to see. I don't think they're going to cover the baseball aspect much because they already did a documentary about that years ago, the 30 for 30. I think I'm looking to see them talk about just the 2 teams, those 2 years without him from the basketball, not Jordan's baseball side. I think it's going to be the Scottie Pippen show.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is going to portray Scottie Pippen. People are going to walking out being like, wow, like, Pippen could do it. Pippen could do it by himself. He couldn't win, but he could lead that team all by himself. He had no issues. I think that's going to portray a good light on Pippen. That next week, I think it's going to be all about Pippen. I really do. It's going to be all about how good Pippen was, how great Pippen was. My number 2 thing is I like to see them dive into his personal life, like his family, like his wife. I don't even know if they're still together. Like, I have no, like, there's claims of him having kids with like a bunch of kids. Like, I would love to see him go into that. If this is truly about him, let's hear about his life. Was his life great with his fiance, whoever it was? So I definitely want to see that. And I just a little like part of me wants to see back in. I don't think they're gonna cover it, but I would love to see it when they were doing the flashbacks. Like, when you think about it, there was 2 stars in like everything, including sports and music, and it was Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson. 2 icons. Like, people wanted to be them. They both did a music video together. Like, Michael Jordan was in his music video. I think that's a key. I think that's a big part. Like I think a small 3-minute, 4-minute thing about that, just to talk about the icon he was, to be compared to Michael Jackson at the time, who was the biggest there was. I think that could definitely be touched. But yeah, that's definitely what I want to see. Eric, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's all right. I was just gonna say, when you talk about he's hinting at his personal life, I remember they showed a little bit in, like, I think it was probably either episodes 2 or 3, where they showed him like with his kids on the court during the pregame. Then he was like warming up, and he would just let them shoot around, and he'd be passing the ball back to them. So yeah, I think they should show more about his personal life, what's going on with that, how he deals with that during this whole time. during his career. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts? Anyone? Nothing. Nothing at
I
all.
think I touched on all of it already.
Yeah. As always, I got one final question. I think all the fans want to know. All 10 of our fans want to know: is Erik Herb returning next Friday night?
I will be back.
All right.
Let's go!
Let's go!
Let's go! You like that?
Yes.
You like that? You like that?
All right. He'll be back. He'll be back next week.
Awesome.
Excuse me. Yeah, I got too hyped.
No, I get you choked up, Mike.
It's okay.
Yeah, that way with him.
It's all right, man. Anyway, you could check us out Facebook. Give us some likes, comments, Studs Podcast, YouTube Studs Podcast. I'd like to shout out Jacob Bulio for editing. He's going to edit our latest podcast that should be up soon. So he's going to be our new editor. Appreciate that. You rock, Jake.
Jake.
Shout out Charles Smith for never passing it out. Keith would have punched him. Kick out!
I would have shower at him from the stands if I was there.
Yeah, Charles Smith, man. Shout out to you. Shout out to brother and Epson Brinters.
Yeah, brother, that's the perfect, man. Thanks for getting the job done. All my college papers, I'm not in college anymore, but you made it happen. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Check us out, Erik Herb on Instagram.
Erik_Herb.
Yeah, Erik_Herb. Louie Sassa on Instagram.
First name, last name.
What's yours, Keith? Isn't it K Herb 95 or something?
No, that's my Snapchat.
Oh,
It's Keith_Herb.
Yeah, so check us out on YouTube. Support us if you like our content, and we will talk soon. Have a great one, guys.
See ya. Peace out.